And hopefully no further dramas as we approach the end of the 8th hour here in the 68th running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Heading towards 11 p.m. Central European time.
Yeah, sorry, Harry Newey jumped out the car. Norman Nato got in the car, so they actually did a driver change at that stop. That's the first thing they did.
So Harry Newey will be in the garage and probably fairly frustrated with that. Louise Beckett will go down, hopefully catch up with him. Again, whole bunch of LMP2 stops that time round. Andre Negrão took over the 36 Senior-Tech Alpine car from Nico Lapierre, who's gone off.
Is this a shunt or is it
That's an SMP car, I think.
Is it been pushed back or is it actual?
Well, they look at all the grass and things, so there's definitely been something at the front of it.
That wing's not quite straight, is it?
Well, the left-hand end plate certainly isn't.
So that's the 17 car. That's the car that was in third. Matevos Issakan. Issakan is the man. Now, was it he who flew towards the end of the 6 hours of Spa?
Yes.
Yes, it was, and that's at 32. That's at the karting section. It's the end of the Porsche curves.
Oh my
he's in the
goodness!
And he's skipped across there.
Well, hang on. That's saying that's Ewan Hankey in the 90 car, but it's not.
That's Issakan. That's Issakan, and that says he's turned left in the second kink. He's lost it, sort of switched positions and flown into the barrier on the right-hand side. Now, if that had been last year, he would have taken the front and the back of the car off, because that wall, where he skidded across the sort of beige surface, there was a wall there, and it's been moved back 35 metres from this year to last year. Well, now he's back. He started it up. He's got to shut the door, chap.
No, doesn't have to shut the door.
Yeah, he does have to shut the door.
Right, well, they'll shut it for him, and he can't reach it, can he? Because he's bolted in.
He's like, no, I'm going.
It's a left-hand drive car. He needs to be able to shut the door.
Right, okay.
But you can see the back end, the rear wing there is completely damaged from where he's gone in. There's limited damage in reality, apart from huge flat spots.
Yeah, so it's so much for the abrasive nature of that special paint to slow the car down.
Well, he's probably doing 175 miles an hour.
Probably doing plenty and more. Well, there's Ewan Hankey, who had a separate issue, and that was in the Ford chicane. That's why we picked him up on his way out. That's why he came from an odd position. Jean-Eric Verne in the pit lane.
That was a big spin there.
Who's playing tonight? Oh, it's Texas down in the fan zone. Last night it was Jamiroquai. Our Scottish contingent were there, rocking out to JK.
Be down there for Charlene Spiteri tonight.
And oh yeah, more Scottish. But that over-Scotted to a huge amount with Charlene Spiteri and our Scottish contingent.
So we were looking at this a minute ago, and the marshal's shaking his finger saying, "No, mate, you're going nowhere." And he's been pushed back.
Got to go somewhere.
They've got no right to push him back if he can drive it out there.
Yeah, but don't know what the situation is. But the last thing you do as a driver is stop the car, and if you can get it back in any way whatsoever, and he's been able to move 4 or 5 meters forward. This car was in 4th place. It was in 3rd place. It's dropped to 4th place now, and he's getting out. The driver's getting out.
Why is that?
I'm sure he wants to have a look at the car himself.
Yeah, he's trying to dislodge something. Something's caught what's happened, I think, is when he's hit the barrier, it's pushed the rear wing forward on the other side, which has then pushed the bodywork forward. When he's pulled the car away, then it's got basically, it's jammed up a little bit. Now he'll have to take the engine cover off. So what he'll do is there's a twisting here, 90 degree. It's basically a 90-degree clip. There's 2 other ones on the rear. You take that bodywork off and you just throw it away. It's very, very light, but you've got to do it. There's one of these on this side, one on the other side, one on the top, like locking pins. And then what you have to do is basically kick them back to move it and then just drag it off.
Yeah.
It's only about maybe 12, 14 kilos or something.
This reminds me of about 15 years ago, the French Federation, FFSA, sponsored a Viper, and it had a big shot in the rain.
Here we go again. He's come through. Yeah, he's just lost the. It looks as if it sat in the right rear a little bit and then switched ends on it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
like he got a tank slapper in a bit of a way.
Exactly. Yeah, it didn't go round to the left.
No,
it went left, right.
Come on, chap, you don't give up now.
Look at the frustration.
Don't give up now. You take your time, you take a big breath, take your gloves off. That's exactly it. No, no, thank you very much. But
no, don't.
This is at the point he's now trying to get the mobile telephone that's in that,
Louise Beckett down in the pit lane with Harrison Newey, who's just come in after about a day and a half driving back on a puncture. How's he doing?
Harrison, I'm so sorry to see you back here. Puncture caused all of that.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a look at the tyres. It looked like something went through the tyre, so it wasn't like a failure. It was just that I noticed coming out of past the Dunlop Bridge, coming down the hill, that I got an alarm on the dash with low pressure, and then I just felt the ride height drop, and I managed to keep it for half a lap, and then it just went completely. So, you know, we've seen a couple of people with punctures. I don't know what's causing them. Just unfortunate that happened to us. I think we were going really well before then. I had to triple stint those tyres, which I knew was going to be difficult. So I took it really easy in the first stint. Sacrificed a lot of pace that I had in the first stint to make sure I had a lot in the second stint, because we've seen with a lot of the Dunlops that in the first stint people have been really hampered by pushing hard in the first stint. So the tyres felt much better than they did in my first run this morning. So I think it would have been a good one, but it happens. So.
Disappointing.
Yeah, we still got 15 hours to go, so a lot can happen.
It's a long time, yeah.
Exactly.
Good spirits, thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise. As Addison said, he's actually got another hour. He's got 16 hours to go, so a little bit more time. SMP, they'll feel they've maybe got only a few minutes to go before the race is over. What they're doing is picking the car up. I think they're going to move it behind the barrier, because that's a very quick part of the circuit. And if someone else has an issue in the same area, then it could be an impact. So therefore, move it behind the barrier, and then hopefully allow him to continue to work to try to get that engine cover off, which I would suggest is blocking on the other side of the wheel. As here we see one of the Ferrari GT Yams just running through at Arnage, and coming back on, that's number 70, that's Ishikawa in the MR Racing Ferrari.
So Martin Haven and Peter Dumbreck have disappeared off. Toby and I are back here. Actually, I ended up in that gravel trap last year. I think it was in pre-practice qualifying, one of the sessions at the Porsche curves. And I sat there, and the Manitou came and just picked me up and sort of just dropped me. There's a tarmac sort of road now between the gravel trap and the barrier that they put in as part of the upgrade. And the guy picked me up and drove across the gravel trap, just dropped me on that road, and said, okay, you can try and drive out of there now. So I'm a bit surprised that, you know, when they were having the conversations about what to do, why they didn't present that option to the driver, because that at least gets him.
Yeah, but I think there's something must be fouling the left rear tyre area, because he immediately ran out to the car. When he got out the car, he ran around and he started kicking at that back area, and then to try to take the engine cover off, which makes me think that something's stopping the car moving forward, because Karuni moved forward about, just as you were coming into the booth, he moved forward maybe about 5 or 6 meters and then stopped. And I thought he stopped because he saw traffic coming, but he didn't. He stopped because something was stopping him moving. Yeah. And it wasn't a marshal.
Right, okay. So we don't think he's, because he's in the gravel there, isn't he? When he's moved forward, we don't think he's gone forward and...
No, I think he's actually... I think it's something fouling the left rear, right, by what I could see, but the camera was only showing the right-hand side of the car. And so it's a little bit of supposition more than anything else.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the bodywork because that's scrap anyway, but if it can't get back, it's naturally not that far, really. Porsche curves, karting, Ford chicane to get back to the pits, but if the thing won't move, he's got to get rid of it.
Yeah, he's down to 5th place already, though.
What's going on there?
Hello. Yeah. So they've had a loose bit of bodywork. That rear end will come off because there's the join at the top. Yeah. And the next bit will come and mate up to that.
It's a quick enough
change,
part of the Kevlar.
That's part of the carbon fibre. But
they're doing the front as well, Toby. So something's happening. Here is the replay at the 37.
This is coming in.
This was weird and
Oh my
goodness me.
But it's all like the bodywork's already wobbling around.
Yeah, no, it was already broken. It looks like he's had a hit to the left rear somewhere.
But they changed the front as well, so...
Is that because he bounced over the curb so hard?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
You normally wouldn't, because it's unless one of the lights was out. That's the other thing, because you have to have all lights on. So therefore, if one of the lights is out and you've bounced over the curbs, the chances are you've damaged the light itself.
Yeah, the FIA mandate in the blue overalls, you could see they are really hot about checking to make sure the cars comply with all the regulations, safety and technical, before they release it back out.
Yeah, what's that guy doing on that rear left? He's sort of rubbing as if they, you know, remember that sort of super sticky tape that you can put on some bodywork, Alan, if it's got a bit of shard or a bit of shattering to just to hold it all together. Maybe he's just making sure that a bit of broken main part of the bodywork that's not part of the tail has been all put back together. Good evening here from Le Mans. It is just gone 11:05 here local time. Good afternoon to you if you're watching in California, and very good morning if you're watching in Australia.
Yeah, well, I've had some tweets from people in New Zealand, actually. So clearly, people listening to us all over the world, which is cool. And
any from India?
Nice. I had a couple. Yeah, I've had a couple. Some asking about my tea making abilities.
So how is your dad?
He's all right. Yeah, I think he's all right. He's fast asleep. He's not watching. Yeah, no, he's all right.
Good.
What's going on here? So
we're on board with Tony Kanaan as he comes down through the Forest S's, chasing the Corvette of Jan Magnussen. That is 8th and 9th in class for the GTE Pro category, still being led by Laurens van Tor in the number 92 Porsche. There goes one of the G-Drive LMP2 cars. These GT cars are quick, but those LMP2 cars are quicker. And then, of course, there's the hybrids at the forefront of the field, which are just from another planet.
Magnussen and Kanaan must be bored of each other by now. I feel like we talked about them in like the first hour of the race.
You were texting Dario about what car he drove.
Exactly, in the first hour of the race. And here we are, you know, 7 hours later, and they're pretty much exactly where they were. You know, the drivers have changed twice or thrice, and here they are, firmly locked together, and still kind of in 8th and 9th, which is sort of where they were earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, these guys obviously have got that leader of the class some 2 minutes and 20 seconds up the road, but then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th in class, covered by about 40 seconds from 2nd to 9th in class for GT Pro.
I tell you, the car who has snuck up a little bit over the last few hours is that 52 Ferrari. It's got Pipo Durrani in it at the moment. And early on, they were outside, you know, they were well outside that leading battle. We had that train, didn't we, of 7 or 8 cars, and it was a Collado car. And here we go. Here is the SMP car. It's hanging.
He's back in the car.
He's back in it. Right, what are they doing with it here, Alan?
Now, this is a spin, so he's had his tank slapper turning through the second left.
Sparks underneath, wasn't it? When he went across the gravel.
And then bonk back into the barrier.
Just enough to put that bodywork into that rear left tyre, as you say, Alan, to stop it turning.
I presume it's bodywork at the moment because he started to try to take the engine cover off but couldn't quite get it off. But it could also have been something to do with suspension. It was the way he bounced over the curbs and the car jumped up and down. It was a fair old speed and force.
Yeah, and the thing about the bodywork is if it's been shunted back, Alan, then it won't be sitting perfectly in the with the fixings, and then it'll be tighter to undo those locating bolts.
I know, you've got to kick it off.
Maybe not the right tool that he's got.
No, he's got the right tool. There's no point giving him the wrong tool to take one of the things off that you've got to take off.
But yeah, it's just tighter than normal because it's been shunted just a mil.
Back on board with Tony Kanaan. Jan Magnussen up ahead. The first Magnussen that we knew in motorsport.
Absolutely. Underneath the lights.
He was one of my heroes, he was, Jan. And when he was driving F3, and I remember British F3, he was utterly brilliant that year, wasn't he? 14 out of 18.
Successful British F3 driver in terms of starts to wins ratio ever.
Yeah, it was 14 out of 18. But I remember in Macau, he binned it in the qualifying race, and he binned in qualifying, started 18th in the first race, and then came up to 7th, and then finished on the podium in the second race.
At Macau.
He was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Jumped into Formula One, didn't quite happen for him at McLaren and at Stewart Grand Prix, and then has made his name in sports car racing and is now a long-time life-serving member of the Corvette family.
And he's still quick, isn't he? He can still.
Well, he was never slow. That's one thing about Jan Magnussen. He was never ever slow.
But that's the thing, you know. People like him and Ollie, we talk about them well into the high teens here at Le Mans. but they're still able to deliver that relentless pace, lap after lap after lap, which is what the teams look for. Oh,
that's him.
Okay.
There you see the car there, and he's on the grass now. So he's moved forward again and stopped again.
I find it surprising they haven't thrown off that engine cover.
Well, he was trying to get it off, but he couldn't get it off. It looked like he couldn't open the top. There's 3 keys, or 3 points where he has to turn the key. One of them is right on the top of the engine cover, and then one at each side. And for whatever reason, he wasn't able to get it turned 90 degrees to release it.
I'm also surprised, Alan, because we're not that far from the pits, that they haven't had a couple of mechanics get to behind that barrier.
Yeah.
It's the other side of the track. You've got to go through the tunnel where they have a scooter. Yeah.
But it's not. But it's not that far.
It's not that far, and also I also see the other side of it. This is Le Mans, and it's a year, which is quite a long time to the next one if he can't get it fixed.
Yeah.
So you do everything that you can. Yeah. What he was trying to do as well was he was opening the bag with the portable telephone. In case the radio's gone down, in case you're in this situation, then there is a mobile phone that's pre-set to a telephone number in the pits. And he was looking to get that out, but then we switched cameras and went, something goes, oh my goodness.
Ooh, big clatter.
Yeah, that was a huge clatter by Canan over it's coming out of the left-hander at the second chicane there, run up over the middle of the curb, and you can hear the center of the car hitting the ground there.
Well, as we ride on board with Tony Kanaan, Louise Beckett is down there in the pits with Porsche. Go, Louise.
Taking the hand of his team members at the moment. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, go. You're live.
Yeah, I'm with Timo Bernhard. He's just talking to his team. It looks like the 94 is out of the race.
Oh,
just
dear.
going to grab him now. Timo, tell us.
Well, yeah, it's a bit disappointing because to see our car already in the garage, and yeah, we have to, as you see, the race is over. We have a problem with the suspension, and we need to analyze what exactly happened, but they cannot repair it in time to do a good result or at all, and yeah, so we need to check. But the crew did a great effort to fix this car, actually after the quali crash we had, and make it ready for the race, so we would have deserved definitely more. So it's a bummer, but yeah, next year we'll come back.
At the moment, we've got Porsche 1, 2, 3 with the other cars. Is it too early to say if it's something that could go on to one of the other cars?
No, I don't think so. I think it's probably a specific issue with this car, we believe, and that's why they investigated it as well very, very carefully. But for sure now we keep fingers crossed for our sister cars, and you cannot always have a story like we had last year that's probably unique after repair to win. And yeah, so we'll keep our heads up, but for sure it's a bit disappointing because Le Mans is always nice, always a big challenge, and you want to finish that race, you want to beat that race, and the only way you can beat it is to give it all and to finish the race and then to see what result you have. And no, we have none, but we'll keep our head up.
I'm sorry, Timo.
Okay, thank you, Louise. Sad news to hear indeed from Timo Bernhard.
Sebastian, we want to keep the gap around 4 seconds. We want to keep the gap to Kamui around 4 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not the robot, so I'll do my best.
Copy that, Sophie.
So you know, I'm on better tires, so it's normal that I catch.
You know, Sebastian, I know.
So to understand this, when I have good tires, I cannot use them. I have to stay behind. But when they will have better tires, they will be able to use them. Is this how it is?
Sebastian, the gap will be consistent until we decide to open again. Okay?
Well,
right.
Mr. McNish,
that last sentence was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, the last part was the key point to that. There was a bit of clarification there that I'm very sure they'd have preferred to have kept within themselves. There's now into a slow zone for this car, which seems to be coming in and out of its own little pits. But yeah, the situation there was Buemi requesting clarification. The team had asked him to drop the gap from 2 seconds to 4 seconds to Kamui Kobayashi in the 7 car up ahead, and that they were going to stick with that. However, Boemi has got better tyres on and said, look, it's normal that I catch. And they said, yeah, stay with the gap. However, when it goes the other way, then Kobayashi would pull away. When it comes, they've got better tyres until the team decide what to do.
Yeah, and that's fascinating, isn't it? Because, I mean, does that mean they decide to stop racing? Or does that mean they decide to let them off the leash?
Well, I would suggest with a 2-lap gap, they can let them off the leash a little bit, but it's also a risk.
Yeah.
And with the times that it's slipped through Toyota's fingers, do you think they would want to take an additional risk when they're in this position? I would think it would be unlikely, and also I think it would be slightly silly of them as well. However, there's still 16 hours basically to go, so I don't think we're in any position right now. There was just that bit of clarification. Gap, funnily enough, has came back down to 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see when they make that call to hold position, which car is
ahead.
Yeah. That's the key point, isn't it, in all of this stuff? I mean, you know, in the days, I remember 2012 when we came here, you guys were 3 Audis, but you guys were going hammer and tongs at each other until I'm sure there was a phone call at some stage saying, okay,
no, there wasn't.
Was it not?
No, we were going hammer and tongs to each other. Yeah, there wasn't a phone call.
Yeah. So, and you know, I think I'm fascinated to see how this plays out.
Yeah, but the difference was, you know, Audi had won 13 in 18 attempts, and Toyota's missed it on so many occasions, and it's 20 times here, and so therefore, if you have a chance of getting one hand on that trophy, they're going to take it, and rightly so. I can't disagree with them with that, but
yeah, of course.
Let's see where it goes to, because Sebastian clearly isn't listening to what the call was, because it's now 1.5 seconds a gap.
Well, he's one of the guys that answers back, isn't he? He's one of the guys who's not going to just roll over and have his tummy tickled. He's a fighter, he's a racer. He can see a Le Mans victory for him. He's got the World Championship, but it's all about the Le Mans victory now. And if he's been told this, he's told that. And when you're in the car, you know, you got to do as you're told. You're an employee and all that kind of stuff. But you are a racer, you're a racer, you're a racer.
Yeah, it's tricky times. It is tricky times. And, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of nerves and there's a lot of tension there. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of tension here. Richard Westbrook all over the back of Pipo Derani, Luis Felipe Derani. And he's got his indicator on, so I don't know what that means, but...
No, he's flashing.
Oh, he's flashing, sorry. It's Westy flashing at the back of this reflection there. Okay.
So... yeah, well, Pipo Derani, he's got 2 of the big 24-hour victories, hasn't he? Sebring and Daytona. But here at Le Mans, he's in the GTE Pro class for the time being. This is the battle for 6th and 7th in the GTE Pro class. Still leading the Porsches 1 and 2.
Yeah, this is the Ford behind Bleekemolen, and sorry to just jump in there, guys. Pipo Derani is a couple of seconds. He's the car up ahead. And this is actually Bleekemolen GTE AM car that has now sort of blocked him. So there's a wee bit of a gap here. He needs to get past this car, and then he's got to catch up on the one ahead, which is Pipo Derani.
Join the club, Alan. I've mis-ID'd the WeatherTech AM car compared with the Pro 52 car before. You're in the club.
You've earned yourself another Scottish chocolate for that.
Thank you very much.
Off he goes. McNish quiet for 5 minutes. Does such a thing ever happen, Karun? Well, it will now. It will now.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, he can't find him.
He can't find him. I've hated them, you see. So
he's eaten them all.
Best way to hide them.
Now then, we're riding on board with the Ford going down the back straight as the AF Corsa mechanics look on.
See Amato Ferrari there, the man who runs the AF Corsa program, and they are, I mean, it's a big program, isn't it, nowadays? You know, it's not just what we're seeing here at Le Mans. They run a lot of GT3 programs and various championships, and not only in Europe, they run it all over the place. And this is the battle. Nick Tandy in the Porsche, 0.4 of a second behind Fred Makiewicz.
It is. We're riding in 3rd position, 2nd right in front of us. The leader is a couple of minutes further up the road. It's Porsche 1, 2 and 3 at the moment. There are only 3 Porsche 911 works cars in this race now. We've lost the 94. You heard that from Louise when she spoke to Timo Bernhard a moment ago. So Muller, Bernhard and Romain Dumas out of this race after a suspension failure. and unable to repair it as we are coming up to the Porsche curves. Look at this. Just listen to this engine howl around Le Mans.
Oh, he's happy. Oh, that was late. That was very, very late to go in there.
Yeah, wow, that's a proper lunge. Let's listen in.
A little bit of a lift.
Great run through the Porsche curves. Just thinking back, Alan, to the year Tandy won the race with Nico Hülkenberg and wow, look at that LMP2 car come past him into the pit. That was a brave dive, brave stroke risky, but anyway he made it. But yeah, anyways, coming back to my point, the year that Tandy won it with Bamber and Hülkenberg, it was at night, wasn't it, that car really made inroads into the other two.
Yeah.
And again, Tandy here at night is his pace has been very good here.
Yeah. It was actually through the night later on where they really started to dominate. I just love listening to the way the throttle application and Tetra Rouge.
Very smooth, isn't it?
This car, 36, reported not to have lights on, and that means a pit stop if that is the case. We can see two lights on the rear there, definitely.
But it should have the verticals on the back of the fins.
Which then would be a tail change. That's the car in second place in LMP2. It's a lap behind the leader, the G-Drive car, which had a pit stop under investigation. Haven't heard anything more about that.
Yeah. That's gone quiet, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's gone quiet. So, but this is a second place car.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not the headlights because you can see they're working and the bottom lights are. So I think you are right. I think it's the ones on the rear wing. So that should be a relatively quick change, shouldn't it? Because they just changed the rear bodywork.
Yes, you just changed the rear tail. This is the 11 car.
It's the LMP2 SMP car, I think.
LMP1.
Sorry, LMP1. Yeah, Michaela Leschen.
Yeah. They're off the leaderboard completely.
Yeah, this is the button car, isn't it? Which is...
Had all the problems, the electric problems, right at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, lost some 30-odd laps or so, but some go-go juice going in, and off it goes.
The sister car to this one's the one that spun in the Porsche curves that we saw trying to go and couldn't quite make it and getting picked up by the Manitou, down in 17th position now. Dropped halfway down through the LMP2 grid already.
The car that was
still stopped critically.
The car
and it's still stopped as well.
Yes.
It's
not moving.
16th and plummeting as well. So that is a real shame for those guys.
The car that was in third position having dropped down. So third position now, the Rebellion, number 3 of Thomas Laurent. Fourth position, the Rebellion, the number 1 car. That is Andre Lotterer at the moment. So they are doing the best to keep on the tail of those two Toyotas that lead this race by a clear 2 laps at the moment. Back on board with Nick Tandy. Let's ride with him. Well, we could, but that third position for him still looking towards the retro colour scheme of the Porsche 956. 962 in front of it as they come up in a ball of light towards the Porsche curves.
Yeah, we were hoping to listen a little bit more through the Porsche curves. I was speaking to Neil Yanni earlier, Alan, about the speed that the Rebellion carries, and he says we've sort of homologated a bodywork with too much downforce.
Yeah.
He says the Porsche curves now, he says we don't brake. He says we have a half a lift for the first one, half a lift for the long right-handed karting, and he says the rest of it is just flat out.
Yeah, just to try to get the nose of the car in.
That's right.
Get a bit of pitch transferred onto the front tyre.
And he says that's just, we're too quick in the corners. We should have homologated a lower downforce package.
Yeah.
And that's where he believes their car wasn't as quick as the SMP car. And we saw it earlier, didn't we, with Sarrazin, when he was able to cut through the traffic and pull away. But ultimately, the Rebellions are still going in third or fourth.
Just remember that the SMP cars, that's the engine cover that's finally off the car, but the car is still stuck behind the barrier.
I am still amazed they haven't got a mechanic there advising. I'm absolutely amazed that somebody hasn't gone out by now.
Yeah. Just remember these SMP cars as well after the Spa race, then they made some adjustments and actually reduced overall downforce slightly by bigger holes in the front wheel arches, and also shifted the centre of pressure, the aerodynamic centre of pressure forward to the front.
Another replay of that spin.
Bit of sparks. It's the sparks underneath it that surprised me there, Karun.
Yeah, that's what I said before. I think. Do you think it's just the gravel scraping again? Oh, I don't know.
No, there's no metal on it.
What's the metal? Exactly.
It's carbon and wood. So sparks are surprising, yeah.
Unless it was a deflated tyre, unless it was a rim. Sparks coming off the rim, maybe.
Maybe.
That's what caused the spin. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Back with Nick Tandy.
It was quite an aggressive snap, wasn't it, when it went?
Yeah.
It did snap quite quickly on him.
We have seen there before because of the nature of the corner, a little bump in the middle of it.
I think your teammate Loic de Baal.
Yeah, Loic had an almighty accident there, Marc Genet, a few years beforehand as well.
That's right.
It now looks like we're setting this up for an overtake.
Yeah. Here comes Tandy down the inside.
Oh, no. Guy, who's
wise. You think of wise against your teammate?
It was wise not to go through with it, but it was sort of in there at the time where he maybe didn't need to be.
Watch the speed build.
I know.
He's got a good exit, isn't he? Did you hear how early he was on the power there?
Yeah, and how much he cut the curb relative to Machiavecchi up ahead of him.
Good
but now there's that LMP coming back to the right-hand side, which may take away a little bit from them.
Alan, you're now a team manager of or the team principal of the Formula E team. If you were the team principal of this team here, would you make the phone call to let Tandy pass? He's going past now anyway, I think, into Indianapolis.
No, but they're coming back to each other.
Side by side, he's got to go around the outside. A ball of light comes towards the camera. The LMP2 car has snuck through. There is a Ferrari going through. That's in GTE AM alongside one of the other AM Porsches, but it's situation normal. It's still the blue Porsche ahead of the regular works colour scheme. Blue leads the regular red, black and white car. But the gap has just been broken a little bit by Fred Machiavecchi.
He's gone past that Project 1 car and he's diving down the inside of the Ferrari as well.
Made it work, made it stick. That's the second place JMW Ferrari in GTE AM. Jeff Segal at the wheel for the time being.
Yeah. So what do you reckon? Do you think they ought to let Tandy pass? Because he's clearly got good pace, hasn't he?
I would let them race. I'm a racer, always, I hate having input or something from the pits. However, saying that, if I saw two of my cars when we were 1, 2, 3 in the race compromising each other with 15.5 hours to go, I think I would let them do it once, and then I would say, right boys, easy Tigers, easy. They've got to remember, it's a difficult thing. You're driving for yourself, but in reality, you're who you're driving for.
Yeah, exactly. You got the 3 works cars at the moment, 1, 2, 3.
Louise makes a good point as well there. We're talking about Ford having 2 teams, a European team and a US-based team, all under the one umbrella and one picture and everything else. But also they do here because Nick Tandy races out in the US, whereas Machiavecchi is over on this side of the pond more often.
With the World Endurance Championship, yeah, the Core Autosport run cars, that the GT car in the IMSA Championship as opposed to the Mante cars. This is the Core Autosport squad in the regular works Porsche colour scheme. We're back on board with Nick, outright winner of this race. Won Petit Le Mans in a 911 a couple of years ago. What an upset that was, but proof that the weather conditions could level some things out. There is the number 8 Toyota, Sebastian Buemi. Was that still in there?
Yes.
Yes, thank you guys. He's in second position for the time being. The number 7 Toyota tramps around this circuit. He gets pushed back so that he can get the lock around, push back a little bit further. so that he can get the car around. I think it was an Aston Martin AM car in front of him, Porsche, whatever, GT car, and he makes his way down pit lane.
He's on the radio, isn't he? You can see his hand gesticulating there. He's definitely having a conversation about things. I'm going to just... Sorry, Toby. We'll see the pit lane time when he comes out, a minute 12. So he's lost about 7 or 8 seconds, isn't he, on what we've seen
the pullback.
That's what I mean.
They did have the pullback there, but that was only it's about a 3-second loss usually for a pullback. It's worse if you come into the pits than if you go out. Because if you go out, you're ready to go in. When you're coming into the pits, you've got to make a bigger angle to try and stop, and then get pulled back into your position, and then the refueling can come on.
Right then,
we've got half a car, and the rear wings off as well.
Yeah, they finally got all the back end off. He's fired it up.
Punctured on the right front as well,
and the rear left.
The rear left. Sorry, yeah,
and a
puncture on the right,
and on the rear. I think all the tyres are punctured from the spin. I think when he's spun on that high abrasive surface, all the tyres are punctured.
Yeah, but there's a tread thrown on that left. I wonder if that happened to make him have the accident.
No, that happened with it's I would suggest that was probably. Look at the
steam and stuff coming out.
I think Alan's right. It was on the spin.
Fire! Gearbox. That's to do with moving. Oh, yo. So that's the out.
Sebastian Philippe
clutch,
there was
and it's all going wrong, and that thing really is out of this race now.
That could be a safety car. Yeah. Certainly it's going to be a slow zone, but that could also be safety car because of where it is.
Yeah, I'd like to see an extinguisher quite quickly.
Well, that's steam, I suspect, but there were sparks coming out from the he's tried. Alan, you said you must never, ever give up. At all costs, get the car back. He's tried behind the barrier. He gave it a go, but just a couple of yards, and I've never seen sparks come out of an engine or on top of a gearbox like that in motorsport before. That is just not going to happen. Look at the boys. They know it's not going to work. The helmets are off. Stop. That's it. It's out.
Yeah, but look, all 4 tyres punctured from that spin. That's one thing. Then there's the damage that obviously it's caused.
It's sitting on the deck as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's on the belly. It's on the belly of the car.
Yeah.
Which
is one of the reasons that he probably couldn't drive it over the grass, because he didn't have any ride height to drive it over the grass, and no grip or traction to be able to move the car with enough pace to launch it over the grass.
You can't get out of the gravel with inflated tyres, let alone.
But I tell you, the sparks were spectacular. I was trying to think about where they might be coming from, because
it's like the top of the clutch.
The top of the.
Is it coming out the clutch?
The alternator could be in there as well.
Yeah, I mean that's
there. It is. That's where this. I tell you what.
Go on.
The sparks we saw at the end, are they the sparks we saw when the car was going across, because they were higher up than necessarily? I'm not sure if the two are related here. I think there could have been something that actually.
Because that looked like it was underneath. To me,
look, this is the replay of him getting going. The engine, obviously, the crankshaft stops underneath the airbox, and now look at those sparks. That is metal touching metal in a very angry way. That's
electrical.
That's electrical.
Or electrical. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think there's something electrical there that sparked off.
Yeah, he's getting out of there quickly.
Obviously,
you could have the alternator in the V of the engine, in the V angle of the engine.
Yeah, and obviously it's a non-hybrid, so it's a.
We're surmising there. Maybe we'll get Louise to have a little run down and see if she can find something out at some point. But until they get the car back, it's actually very difficult to be completely clear about it. What was very clear was the team said it's over.
What a shame. That car was in a podium position, you know. There it was, the best of the rest behind Toyota that are in another class, literally, as well as actually. And there they were, and he's had a moment, probably not of his own doing. He's not a stupid driver. He didn't necessarily have an accident. It made the mistake into the corner. Did something go wrong? Who knows? Discuss, throw it to the table, throw it to the other commentators who are waving at me. But the boys have put a lot of work into that. It's a new car, and they are disappointed. Their heart and souls have got into this project.
And the team manager of car number 17, this car to race control immediately.
Yeah, that's bad news. If it was news, but I suppose they couldn't get
Well, we don't know what that is, Karun, but you know, to go up there suggests that they've done something that isn't correct. You don't get taken to race control immediately as a team manager of a car.
For good news.
For good news.
That's what I mean. It's definitely bad news of some form. I don't know what sort of bad news, but it's...
I'm not sure what can be worse news than what they already have.
No, I mean, they're out of the game with both cars, unfortunately, but their LMP2 car's still running around.
Well, the other sister car is we're riding on board with, because this is the number 11. This is currently...
Way down the order. It's about
way down the order.
30 laps down, isn't it? So, I mean, they're effectively out of it. Here's your favourite car.
Well, it's leading GTE Pro at the moment, and it's leading it by Alan. You've changed the screen.
It's leading it by 2 minutes.
Yes. Yeah, 2 minutes and 5 seconds before the stop.
Laurens Vanthoor sits in there. All the bugs, all the rubber all over the front of that car. Lollipop up and off he goes. It's just gone 11:30 here. Local time for the 2018 Le Mans 24 Hours. It is the Toyota number 7 of Mike Conway, who's now in the car. Leads this race by 1 minute and 10 ahead of Sebastian Buemi, who remains in the number 8 Toyota. In LMP2, it's G-Drive from Panis Barthez, from the IDEX Sport, from the Signatech. That's your 1, 2, 3, 4. New rags ready for the Porsche GT squad. Bamba Pile and Tandy. Tick Tandy at the wheel. He's about to come in. He's in 3rd position at the moment. There is Alexander Sims. First Le Mans 24-hour race for him. He's with the BMW squad. BMW currently 4th in class and also 13th in class. We've got a slow zone after they are recovering the now out of the race SMP number 17. SMP number 17?
Yes.
Yeah, 17, sorry. 17 that brilliantly tried to get going again, but it was not to be.
Alexander Sims has done Le Mans quite a few times in the prototypes, I think, Toby. It might be his first time in GTE, but he's definitely done a few times in the prototypes.
Thank you, Karun. Apologies, Alexander and crew. Got past me, that one.
Yeah, they've recovered the car, so they're dropping it. Actually, not far from our commentary box, I think, is just behind. So we could probably wander down there and have a look after this. Maybe we'll get Dumbreck to go have a look. He's on a little break, isn't he?
In the meantime, that BMW M8 comes into its M-Tech spots.
No driver change on this one, so that's Philipp Eng staying in the car, the Austrian who's raced many years in the Porsche Super Cup, and he's now part of the team.
One of the mechanics there with a camera and a torch taking a picture of the pads, it looks like. You know, what's the pad depth? Is it okay? Yeah, it's okay for the next stint, but let's have a look and sort of we can work out if there's 5 mil, 10 mil, 15 mil, whatever.
Yeah, but they should actually have pad wear indicators on them so that they don't have to do it. It'll just be more of a verification. You've got a pad wear indicator that sends the data back, and so you know always where the pad is. But the closer, the thinner it gets, the pad gets, then the higher the wear rate goes up, and also the heat change as well across the thing.
Yeah, it ramps up, doesn't it? It's a rising rate as it gets thinner and thinner. And we see here the number 5 Ginetta in the pits. So these guys, I mean, they are now, what?
23rd.
13, yeah, I was going to say, but they're 13 laps down. So they're powering on to try and just keep the car running, don't they, and get to the finish. That's their objective, I think, really, in this.
They're taking the front end off. They've already been in the pits, as you can see, for just about 12 minutes now. Front end off, Law at the front, and all of those aerodynamic devices on the inside of the corners, but a lot of work to do for those boys, as if they haven't done enough this week, the past month or so. What an epic job they've done.
Yeah, and you know, I think that's the point that needs to be made, is the hours that the mechanics need to work, and especially when you're in a team which is new and they've had a lot of reliability problems and a lot of teething troubles with the cars. I do feel for the mechanics.
I did a mistake. I thought the slow zone was off. I'm slowing down more to compensate.
Seb, instead of getting carried away by the race situation, you should listen to radio.
Yeah, no, it's done. Let me know if I slow down enough.
Copy. The race is still long, so now cool down, cool down. The race is still long. Still 15 hours 30 to go.
Ooh. Okay. That's a mistake by Sebastian Buemi. He thought that the slow zone was finished and clearly has accelerated or been on the radio or something, but he hasn't followed the orders, and there was a very clear, quite a quiet and calm tone of calm down, get back onto the program, but it's a long race still to go. Don't get frustrated by the fact that now you're a minute behind your teammate, but they have just got their pit stop, and so that'll settle itself back down again. But you know, there needs to be a little bit of calm in Toyota here, and they need to have a bit of control over their drivers on the circuit, because this is a silly situation if they lose this particular race because of something like that.
You've been around Buemi, not only in Audi here in the World Endurance Championship, Alan, but also with Formula E. It's reminded me of that situation where Buemi lost his nut when he got out of a car, an FE car, a year ago or so.
Yeah, in Montreal.
Is there a bit of a, as that team guy trying to said, you know, just cool it a bit?
No, I think actually he had some concussion there because he had an accident the day before. That was very uncharacteristic, in all honesty. And I don't think it was something related here. I just think that in general here, both car crews can see a Le Mans victory.
Yes,
and
exactly that. The internal competition,
yeah,
isn't it?
And whether you like it or not, that'll be.
Seconds to remove slow zones 8 and 9.
Slow zones 8 and 9. 20 seconds from Eduardo Freitas there. But that then ramps up in every engineer.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow zones 8 and 9 are removed.
And that ramps up in every engineer, and it ramps up in every mechanic, and it definitely ramps up in drivers, no question. And when you see something happening like that, where there is a sudden separation, or alternatively you think, crikey, your teammates, for whatever reason, but only seeing it through your very narrow view of your visor as you're looking out of the car, because you don't know what's going on in the background, then sometimes you can jump to the wrong conclusions. Not as a racing driver could we've ever jumped to the wrong conclusions, but it can happen. But in this situation, this is where Toyota need to be very calm and very controlled and have an iron fist with a velvet glove over the top of them to manage this situation.
You're absolutely right, because in the heat of battle, when you're in the car, you know, any small thing that you think is advantageous to the other car gets magnified in your head, isn't it? When the adrenaline's pumping, and you're going, immediately you've got your first thought is, oh, have they done something to favor the other car? Has he got a better strategy? Has he got a better some set of tires? Is something different?
Well, Louise is down there, and I think you're in front of the Ginetta garage. Lou, take it away.
Leo, you've been taking a look at what's happening. There was a slow puncture, but it seems to be a lot more than that now. So what is it?
Now we broke the suspension in the right side, but the mechanics work to fix the problem, and we start. But we are P5 on the P1, and now keep going. And we will do with Mike and Charlie the good stint with the good pace and no mistake. But now the mechanics did the good job, and for sure in the 5 minutes we will start.
Le Mans really is delivering you a lot of obstacles, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's Le Mans. I think if we respect this race, you are in the finish, but now it's the race.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lou. That's Leo Roussel of the number 5 Ginetta. That is the Algarve Pro car. They've had a new gearbox. They've lost a thick end of an hour or so in the back of that car as it comes down off the jacks. That thing should be sorted very soon, so they're not in the sharp end for LMP2, which is still led by the G-Drive number 26 by nearly 3 minutes. This is third position. Third position in the race overall. It's the number 3. It's the Rebellion. That is second position in this race overall. That's the number 8 of Sebastian Buemi. We were riding on board with him a moment ago. And about 30 seconds ahead is the race leader. Here it is. It's Mike Conway at the moment in the number 7 car, sharing it with Kamui Kobayashi and the Argentine Jose Maria Lopez. There is Alex Brundle in the car. The all-British driver lineup with the number 6, Ginetta. Tyres going on, the dollies are just about to be removed from underneath the car, and Alex Brundle, who finished on the podium in LMP2 here last year, about to get on his way in this LMP1 car. They had all sorts of problems in qualifying, but those guys, as you've discussed a moment ago, have worked like demons to get it all sorted. In fact, it's going back in.
Oh
dear.
What a wonder. 10 laps down, and they're still battling to get this car running. Wow, these guys they're going to earn their sleep after this weekend, aren't they, Toby?
They're going to sleep for a week.
Yeah, they will be absolutely destroyed. They've had 20+ hour days. They were working late into last night. I think Duncan and Julian wandered down the pit lane. They could see the guys working late last night, even before the race started.
And they had to get out of bed at 5:30 this morning because the warm-up was at 9 o'clock. You've got to get from the hotel. You've got to make sure that the engine's all warm with the preheater, etc., etc. So, yeah, brutal work. There's a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who worked here at Le Mans in the late 80s through the 90s. The back end of the Group C era into the post-Group C era, and he said, yeah, you know, you can get up early and you can be there and sprightly on the Saturday morning, and you're wide awake, and the buzz of Le Mans takes you through the start, the evening, into coming up to 10 to midnight where we are now, through the night, and you're absolutely wide awake, and you think, I can do this. 7 o'clock in the morning, he always tried to take himself out of the back of the garage and just give himself about an hour's sleep or so. It was different 25 years ago as a mechanic, but he said 7 o'clock, even if you're wide awake, you've got to go and get some shut-eye. Otherwise, you'll get to 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you couldn't even stand up.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things when for the mechanics, when, for example, the race is going on, unless there's a problem, you know, normally only the 2 fuel guys, the one guy does the windscreen, the jack man, you know, they need to do every pit stop, obviously, but the other guys can get a couple of hours here and there, you know, while the cars are running.
Not involved with the pit stop.
Exactly. You know, the others need to be awake, let's say every 45 minutes they need to be awake, obviously, for the pit stop, and then they fall back asleep again. They need to catch any bit of shut-eye they can. But as a driver as well, I think everybody's got a different sleep strategy. I mean, when the first year I came here, I think, well, Peter was my teammate, but the best bit of advice I got from David Brabham, our other teammate that year, was, ooh, that's a 54 cutting through, and there's another car through the gravel. So I wonder if we had a bit of oil or gravel on the entry to the chicane. Not sure there. But I was saying the best bit of advice David gave me that year was just switch off. When you get out of the car, don't be fully switched on and listening and trying to control every single thing that happens. Whatever happens when the other 2 drivers are in the car, you don't have control over it. If they're going to have a good stint or a bad stint.
Problem with the lights there, they've got the lights on the back of the wing, but they haven't got the lights illuminated down below on that LMP2 car. Algarve Pro, thank you, current car that's just left the pit. So they're going to get told off to come back in and get that thing sorted. Yeah, on the gearbox, lights don't work. You couldn't make it up, could you?
No. But yeah, just to finish up, I think every driver's different, and Peter's come back in the commentary box. You know, you tend to grab short naps here and there, don't you, rather than the one big sleep.
Yeah.
Whereas I went for a full 4 hours.
Going back to what you said, whatever your teammates do is completely irrelevant to you. You've got to get in the car, do your job, hand the car over in the best position you can, and then note the time that you've got to get back in the car, and then it's time to go again. And I tend to break a 24-hour up into 5 stints, or how many stints you're going to do. You're going to do basically five races.
Yeah.
They're my stints. That's all I need to do, and I need to hand the car back over to my teammate, and then that's me. I'm done.
Yeah, that's out of your hands.
Don't invest your energy into someone else's race.
Whereas Brabs couldn't actually get the full amount of sleep. He'd sleep the sort of 20 minutes, and then you'll see him wandering around the sort of driver campsite, and then he'll go have another 10-minute kip on a couch somewhere, and then he'll have another little wander at a cup of tea or something. It was, you know, every driver is different and every personality is different, but it's all about energy management and what works for you.
Exactly. Conservation of energy, and the sleep that you get is not really that regenerative, so it's a balance all the time. There you have that 54 Ferrari. That's the Spirit of Race Ferrari 488 that had the trip through the gravel a moment ago. The Spirit of Race in 5th position. Fisichella in that car at the moment. This looks like Matteo Cairoli. Yes, it is. The young Italian coming into the pits with the Dempsey Proton Porsche. Out gets the Italian, big quick splash coming out of the drinks pipe. He helps his teammate get in. Can't see who it is. They're checking the brake pads, they're cleaning the screen, then they're going to keep one of the tear-offs on the front of the screen as he puts the protective net back into position, slams the door. That, as what Peter was saying a moment ago, is his bit of the race done. He cannot make that car go faster for the next 2 hours or so. So just as Peter was saying, go and do something else.
So what he needs to do now is he'll just calm down for a minute, get a drink. He'll go and speak to his engineer, download with his engineer, and just tell him the situation with the car and how he feels and everything. And that's him. And he might go and get a massage, something to eat, and you know, just get yourself a comfortable seat or a nice wee lie down, try and close the eyes and just switch off.
4th position in the GTE Pro class. Nick Tandy comes in, stays in the car. The mechanic's just leaning into the right-hand side. Could be changing a data card, could be putting a new drinks bottle in. Fuel going in. Fuel going in?
Yes.
Must be going
in. You can see it. I can see the mechanic there.
Yeah, fuel.
Yeah, still going on there. The Philip Eng BMW, Toby, is only 0.7 of a second behind Fred Machiavecchi. So that BMW...
The fuel filler's at the front of the car.
Oh.
So what's going on?
Oh.
The fuel filler is in the front, and the mechanic was leaning into the side. So actually there was a problem, and maybe they had the data cable in, and they discovered a problem.
Exactly, it was a data cable.
You're right. You're right.
And now it's going in the pits.
So you're absolutely right, and
that's
it is
4th in class.
Not good news. So while this Porsche goes in, the other sister Porsche of Fred Machiavecchi is coming under pressure from Philip Eng, who has taken over a second out of him on the last lap, and it is seriously close now.
And the leading Porsche, the number 92 pink car, it had a lead last time I looked of a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's now 1 minute and 20.
Yeah, no, it's all tightening up slowly, isn't it? As we see, so Earl Bamber there in the background looking pretty unhappy, so...
They're getting ready to take the rear bodywork off. They've got the Allen keys there. They've got the tools to get that thing sorted. And there's an element of, we're waiting to be told what to do. He's fired up the electrics. The lights have come on. The engine's running.
Yeah, they're blipping the throttle.
So both cars are in.
Hang on a minute. Oh, that's the retired car on the right-hand side.
That's right, yeah. The other car's gone a long time ago. So he's blipping the throttle, and now the Allen keys are going to work, so the bodywork's coming off, Toby.
And the other thing is, that guy in the blue jumper, he's not a regular mechanic that's going to do a pit stop because he's not in overalls. Is he a guy from the computers at the back of the garage who's seen something on a trace and gone, oil pressure, electric, whatever it may be, but he's the guy that knows that specific part of the car that might only be a couple of inches square.
Or the
engine, should I say, Peter?
Yeah. I mean, we heard Timo Bernhard tell Louise the other car was a suspension issue, wasn't it? So it was a different issue.
Yes.
Whereas this one seems electronic, engine, something like that. They're getting him to fire up the car, blip the throttle, but this doesn't look like a quick fix here. There's a lot of
head scratching.
Head scratching and slow moving around, and it's not an all-control delete, that one.
I wish we could stay with that camera in that garage just a bit longer, because somebody's just brought a box out, and you couldn't quite see what was in the box or what was on the tray to sort of find out what the problem was. That is the other Dempsey Proton car. There's Romain Dumas. He's retired out of this race from the other car on the other side of the garage. The mechanic standing in the way. Well, they know the drill when there's a camera there. There's the guy still in the blue jumper. He's the guy at the back of the garage, not one of the regular mechanics, so he just knows that's his specific part. Maybe it's an electrical hardware guy. That's his job, electrical hardware rather than software. Yeah. Who knows? He knows that a potentiometer's broken or a cable's fallen out, and he made it. He commissioned it. He got the supplier into Porsche, and he knows how it works.
Well, that's a lot of guessing there. Yeah. you're going down a long path.
But funnily enough, that's what he'll be doing right now. He'll be racking his brain of, it's a case of, I'm sure he'll look, if for instance in 20 minutes time he's worked it out and they get the car back out, he'll be thinking, shit, I could have done that 3, 5, 10 minutes ago. I could have got the car out there. Yeah. We've all worked in teams, and there are guys that are the regular guys who touch the mechanics of the car, who have got the spanners and got the ratchets and other things, and there are other guys who are a bit more software and data and programming, and there are other racing drivers who just get carried away with their words. Don't they, Peter? I don't know any.
Anyway, let's get back, because that battle for second place, which we're on board with Philippe Eng here, that is Fred Machiavecchi to the left, 0.3 of a second last time round, and you can basically see it there in front of you. So they've got a bit of traffic. They've passed one of the AM Ferraris. There's 2 more AM cars ahead, and then the Clearwater Ferrari ahead of Machiavecchi as they head down towards Indianapolis. But all of a sudden, that BMW, and we talked about it earlier with McNish, didn't we, that when it's getting cooler, the race is coming to, the pace rather, is coming towards BMW, they felt, and Martin Tomczyk highlighted that, and sure enough, the cooler temperatures has started to bring this Philippe Eng BMW right into play.
So it was a Porsche 1, 2 and 3 in GTE Pro. The 3rd position car, Nick Tandy, is in the garage, and it's dropped all the way down the order to 10th position in class. Now that BMW has taken that 3rd position from the previous Porsche, so it is Porsche, BMW. It is the Ford of Sebastian Bourdais, who's about a minute behind this BMW that we are riding with. Then it's Pipo Derani's Ferrari and another Ford a little bit further back in 6th.
Have you seen how dark it gets when the lights blink off, when the phase when it goes off? It is unbelievably dark. And Peter, you know about this from a GT car perspective. How annoying is it when you have somebody behind you flashing the lights?
Yeah, it's very annoying, but yeah, from the situation where you're the actual person flashing, as you say, it actually gets, you're on full light and it dims and then comes back again real quickly. So you kind of, that's quite annoying from the driving point of view as well. But yeah, there's nothing worse than having someone behind you flashing their lights. And when they're not actually, it's not, they're not, you're not getting blue flagged or anything. They're just there trying to annoy you and trying to put you off your rhythm.
I remember Darren Turner came to see me the first year I was in the P2 car, must be 2013. He came to me and said, you know what, don't flash the lights. I've seen you coming. We don't need you to be flashing at us. And I stopped flashing at that point as a force of habit. And, I could see it from a GT driver's perspective, how that can be a bit of a pain.
But you just wanted them to move, didn't you?
I just wanted him to
move yourself out of the way.
But then we got into agreement. I waved at him every time I went past him, and he waved back. So we found an understanding.
But of course, it's difficult for this Ferrari in front of us here because he's doing his own race, and well, you're quicker than me, so why don't you go round me? But of course, they're both in GT cars. One's a year older than the one we're in. And as we said earlier, there's only about a second and a half a lap difference between them, which on a 3-minute 52
Yeah, he's complaining about Ferrari. I was getting slightly annoyed with the amount of flashing, even just sitting in the corner watching from here. So
That is full Nürburgring spec. That's what we do. We're constantly on because there's all these slower cars. But in that situation, he knows you're there. There's no point in keeping flashing about it.
And if anything, it's just going to wind him up even more.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
If I was a Ferrari man, I'd just be going, you know what?
Nah.
I've had enough of your flashing. You can just sit there behind me for a little while.
Andre Lotterer, 4th position with the Rebellion, had that loose nose at the beginning of the race, lost the time, scrabbling around, and they're pushing him back. Why are they pushing him back?
Oh, there's a Ferrari coming in.
There's a Ferrari coming in, the WeatherTech car comes in, the mechanics leap.
They should have just released him.
Oh, and the Ferrari was clever enough to go forward because they're now pulling him back so that he had access to get that Rebellion out of the way. Now then, Nick